George Washington is a 1984 television miniseries directed by Buzz Kulik. The miniseries, released in 3 parts, chronicles the life of George Washington, the first President of the United States, from age 11 to age 51. George Washington is based on the biography by James Thomas Flexner. The miniseries was shot mainly on location near Washington, D.C., and was aired on April 8, 10 and 11, 1984. Washington's life in the French and Indian War. The second part shows the coming and commencement of the Revolutionary War, and the final part describes the victory of the independence from England. It was nominated for 6 Primetime Emmys. Plot. This miniseries covers the life of George Washington, from the time he is a young man, through his experiences in the French and Indian War and his rise to lead the Continental Army during the American Revolution. It concludes shortly after the end of the war, with Washington's return to his home in Mount Vernon. Cast: Barry Bostwick as George Washington, Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army, and later First President of the United States, though his presidency era is not included in the movie. Patty Duke Astin as Martha Washington, wife of George Washington. David Dukes as George William Fairfax, best friend of George Washington and husband of Sally Fairfax. Jacqueline Smith as Sally Fairfax, wife of William George Fairfax. Lloyd Bridges as Caleb Quinn. José Ferrer as Robert Dinwiddie, the Lieutenant Governor of Colonial Virginia. Hal Holbrook as John Adams, member of the Continental Congress and second President of the United States. Trevor Howard as Lord Fairfax. Jeremy Kemp as Horatio Gates, an American general. Richard Kiley as George Mason, an American patriot. Stephen Macht as Benedict Arnold, an American general, later defecting to the British Army. James Mason as Edward Braddock, a British general during start of the French and Indian War. Rosemary Murphy as Mary Ball Washington, George Washington's mother. Clive Revill as Lord Loudon, a British nobleman and army officer. Robert Stack as John Stark, an American general. Anthony Zebas Saint Pierre, a French-Canadian military officer. J. Kenneth Campbell as Richard Henry Lee, an American statesman from Virginia. Philip Casnoff as Lafayette, a French aristocrat and military officer. Josh Clark as Tench Tillman, an officer in the Continental Army during the American Revolutionary War. Kevin Conroy as John Laurens, an American soldier and statesman from South Carolina during the Revolutionary War. Peter Evans as Thomas Mifflin, an American merchant and politician. Megan Gallagher as Peggy Shippen, the second wife of General Benedict Arnold. John Glover as Charles Lee, a British soldier turned Virginia planter who was a general officer of the Continental Army in the American Revolutionary War. Harry Grainer as Patrick Henry, the first post-colonial governor of Virginia. Patrick Horgan as William Howe, a British general who was Commander-in-Chief of British forces during the American War of Independence. Robert Schenken as Alexander Hamilton. John Matthews as John Parke Custis. Christine Estabrook as Abigail Adams. Tom Massalone as Augustin Washington. William Prince as William Fairfax. Richard Fancy as Sam Adams. Scott Hylands as General Greene. Kelsey Grammer as Lieutenant Stewart.